Hey friends, welcome to another episode of Not Your Mama's podcast. The title of this episode is Letting Go of the Shit You've Been Through. In this episode, we are speaking with Karey Spransy, who knows what it's like to feel overwhelmed, unworthy, and knocked down by life. Her experiences as a single teen mother, losing two loved ones to suicide, going through two divorces, and battling stage IV-4 colon cancer taught her how to use setbacks as springboards and turn failure into fuel. Through her coaching programs, Karey teaches you to see that life is always happening for you and that you are a superhero because of what you've been through. Karey is unapologetically real and holds nothing back in her storytelling. She uses her grace and humor to make you laugh, cry, and cry laugh about the absurdities of life. She will help you believe that you are worthy of your big, audacious dreams, and you always have been. Karey, oh my God, it's such an honor to have you on. What an amazing background. I know I've briefly described it in your intro, but can you give the audience a little bit more about yourself that I may have missed?
Yeah, thank you so much for that intro, Christina, and for having me on. Yeah, I mean, it's hard to sum up a whole life, right, in a little bio that we need in a little introduction. But yeah, I became a mom at 18 years old with my high school sweetheart. I found myself divorced before I was 21. Worked full time as a single mom, putting myself through college, and then got married for a second time. That ended after 10 years. Right at the end of that marriage ending, I got stage 4 colon cancer. In the middle of that battle, my son's father passed away.
Wow.
And when it was all said and done, I just said, I can't go back to the life I was living before. So I sold everything I owned and moved to the Netherlands to be with my current husband number 3. Third time's the charm.
Yeah, I was about to say that. Third time's a charm.
Right, exactly. And live here in the Netherlands and just begin my coaching business, because I just felt like all of these things that I briefly glossed over, and we can dive into it more as we talk today. But I just felt like at finally beating cancer, I thought, man, I've gone through all of this stuff that's happened in my life has got to have happened for a reason. And I believe the reason is so that I can help others see the shit that happens in their life, because shit happens to us all the time, sometimes of our own making, oftentimes not. And I believe it's my mission to teach people how to take those things that have happened to them and turn them, like my bio said, into the rocket fuel towards their goals and dreams. Because I really believe that the hardships that we have in our life teach us the skills and the lessons that we need to be the person of our dreams.
Totally. So, as we kind of mentioned, life throws you shit. And how can we handle that? What are some tools that you have under your belt to help women or men, whoever's listening, achieve those big goals that they have?
Yeah, I think, I guess first I'll say, like, when the shit's being thrown at you, when you're right in the middle of it, it is hard. And I don't mean to discount and gloss over and say, oh, well, just find the lessons and see the happy stuff that's happening. I believe that, but usually that happens after, right?
Yeah.
When you're looking back. I will say that for myself now, currently, because of the practices and for how long I've been working at this and because of what I do, I am much quicker at being able to find the good things that are happening. But that has been a lifelong practice, a lifelong work, work in progress, really. I would say that some of the practices to take on right now, if you happen to be listening to this and are eyeballs deep or beyond in it, first and foremost is a gratitude practice of some kind. Now, I know we hear a lot about that, and some of your listeners might be rolling their eyes like, oh God, here we go, another freaking gratitude list. But what gratitude in the midst of everything that's going on is huge, because I believe, number one, life is always happening for us. And it is never just one thing. Yes, colon cancer was happening and it was awful. And
Mhm.
I didn't know if I was going to survive. And I got amazing quality time with the people that I loved. I got to dig in my garden and be out in the sunshine and breathe that beautiful air. I had indoor plumbing. And remember, I had colon cancer. So that was hugely important, the indoor plumbing situation. So there are small, tiny little things that we can find every day that can just remind us that it's not all bad, because that's the truth.
Mhm.
It's not all bad. And even if it's just, well, I opened my eyes today, or, I have food in my refrigerator, indoor plumbing, like the example that I gave, they can be tiny little things, but just getting in that practice of every day noticing the good that's happening in your life is a great, great first start. And then the other thing that I would also say, which may create some eye rolls, is some sort of spiritual practice. For me, that's meditation.
Mhm.
For others, that might be prayer. I personally think they're the same things, which is sitting quietly, going inside, listening to your heart, focusing on your breath, and repeating a mantra that gives you strength. So for some, that might be a prayer. For me, during colon cancer, for example, it was this: I am okay. I am okay. I'm okay. Right. And you can work with your coach or your clergy or friends, even journal to yourself to come up with, like, what is your power phrase? What is the thing that you need to be hearing over and over again to get through? And then that can be your spiritual practice that you work on.
Yeah, I think, that was probably extremely important for you, was to get your mind right, because it's almost healing for your body.
Mm-hmm.
And if you were in a negative state and always thinking negative, I mean, who knows what could have happened and what turn, with the colon cancer and all that stuff. So, I mean, it's extremely important to have a healthy, strong, positive mind, because it's so much more powerful than we give it credit for. Our mind and what our thoughts are what we are and what we, bring out to the world. So it's very important and a great reminder for everyone listening how important it is to have gratitude and to be with yourself and get yourself in a clear, spaced mind.
I 100% agree. And to your point, you always have a choice, right?
Mhm.
Like colon cancer was happening, whether I wanted it to or not, whether I thought it was fair or not, whether I felt like I deserved it or not, none of that mattered. It was happening. That is what is. That was
Mhm.
reality.
Mhm.
And I could wake up every day afraid I was going to die, I'm scared of the pain or the next procedure or the next doctor's appointment. I could wake up feeling miserable, sad, afraid, all of those things.
Mhm.
And sometimes I did, and sometimes I did for the whole day.
Yeah.
But all it did was make that day absolutely miserable. It didn't
Mhm.
change one thing about what was reality. It just made my day miserable. Whereas if I woke up and I chose to meditate, I am okay. I am okay. I'm grateful for these super soft sheets. I'm grateful that I didn't get up in the night 17 times to go to the bathroom or deal with something with my colostomy bag. And I'm grateful that the sun is shining and I get to go sit in my backyard with my cup of coffee. If I started my day that way, I still had all the things that were going on. I still had the doctor's appointments and all of that, but
Yeah.
I was happier. I was more at peace. It made the journey easier. And for me, I think it was such a lesson in staying in the present moment,
Mhm.
because being in the present moment allowed me to see the joy that was happening alongside of the hard stuff without falling into like fear or worry or depression, which just makes you miserable.
Yeah, no,
That's
I
all.
mean, it takes a really strong person. I've never experienced, but like hearing your story and like trying to put myself in your shoes, I mean, it really takes a lot of strong willpower to push through and try to look at the glass half full and not half empty. So I know you talk about there's only two options in life. So can you
Mhm.
explain what those two options are?
Yeah, so I think that the two options that we have is acceptance or choice,
Mhm.
yeah, accept or change. Excuse me. The two choices we have are acceptance or change. And what I mean by that is you could have a situation, right? I was a single mom for like from the time my son was 3 until he was 13. It was just him and I had a lot of support from friends and family around, but I was the sole provider for him. And it was really, really hard. And that situation, I could choose to accept it or I could change it, right? And but I didn't need to accept it forever. Like, okay, I guess, well, I just need to accept that this is how crappy life is and it's going to always be like this. No, what I'm saying is, okay, for this moment in time, I am a single mom and I'm having to work full time and go to school full time, and I don't get a ton of time with my son. And that makes me very sad, but it is temporary acceptance, right? I'm just accepting the way that this is the routine of my life, the way things are happening right now. And I'm going to reassess next year at the end of the semester, right? In 6 months, in 2 weeks, in 24 hours, whatever your situation may be, reassess. Okay, now today, do I accept what's happening or can I change something about it?
Yeah.
And then if there is something that you can change about it, and sometimes that might be simply your outlook, that might simply be your mindset. Like in the case of cancer that I talked about, I couldn't change that cancer was happening. So I had to accept that, but I could change the way I approached it every single day. And that made the journey that much easier. So I think those are really the only two things you need to, can I accept this or can I change this?
Hey friends, I hope you are enjoying this week's episode of Not Your Mama's Podcast. This podcast would not be possible if it wasn't for the support of you, my wonderful community. To support Your Mama's Podcast, please click the support link right down below and you can donate just as little as 99 cents. Also, follow me in the Shop Like to Know It app, where you can follow me with all my exclusive content, all the way from baby products I love, fashion and style, and everything in between. Now let's get back to the episode. Did you work with like a life coach or anything during that time, or was this all like your own independent will? Did you have anyone kind of helping you work through it?
I have had life coaches and therapists, frankly, over my life, with the first divorce. Here I'm like 21 and I've got a 3-year-old and I don't know what in the hell I'm doing. So there we go. First time for therapist number 1 to come in. Right.
Yeah.
So over my life, I have worked between coaches and therapists, but during my cancer battle, I was not working with anyone at the time. And it was really just through sort of my own journey of journaling and meditating and talking with friends and family and my support system that I had around me that really kind of gave me this language to put around what I was experiencing, which was this accept and change. Every situation you can look at it and say, okay, what's possible for me right now? Do I just need to accept this for the time being? Or is there something in here that I can change to make it better for me?
Yeah. And the reason why I brought that up is because I feel like it is important for people to work with other people. You don't have to do this journey alone, and there's nothing wrong in asking for help and, wanting what you want out of life and, having like a third party come in and try to help guide you, keep your mental game strong or whatever that is.
Yeah.
It really does take a strong person to, you went through that, and, your mental strength for going through what you went through with the stage 4 colon cancer. I'm just so impressed by that, because I really think that it has a lot to do with healing. Yeah,
I 100% agree. And I agree with, your statement of getting help, right? So I had a really strong core of support and friends, some of whom are coaches, some of whom are therapists. So, for me to say I didn't have a coach or a therapist, that's probably not entirely true. I had this network of friends who do that on the side. So that's just kind of how they are. But in divorce number 2, I absolutely worked with a coach and a therapist. And I needed that because I needed some tough love. I needed someone outside of my circle who was not emotionally attached to the situation to help me see some of my blind spots, some of the behaviors that I was doing to create the situation.
Mm-hmm.
So having someone that you can speak to and talk to, and particularly someone who's been through something similar,
Yeah.
is incredibly helpful. Someone who has experienced divorce and knows the challenges and the hardships and the guilt and the fear and all of that is huge. Someone who's battled chronic illness or, pain. It's important to find someone that you share some commonalities with so that you can feel like they get it.
Exactly. Everyone wants to be heard and understood, and no other person to speak to than someone who has, similarities in situations.
Yeah.
So we also kind of mentioned, it's okay to want what you want, no matter how big, no matter how small. Can you kind of go into depth a little bit about that, why it's okay to want what you want?
Yeah, I think all of us grow up, right? We all have families, we all live in various communities, and those values of those communities and families get put on us for better or for worse, right? Our parents, our communities, whether that be church or the just the towns that we live in, they have a culture and they have a set of beliefs that if we just take on as our own as we're being raised. But then we become adults and we start to have life experiences that sometimes open us up to other options, but we have that programming in us. And so oftentimes we can deny ourselves of what it is that we really want, whether that be being a mother or not being a mother, getting married or not getting married. And we start to pile on all of these shoulds. I should do this, I should do that. And we go after those things, and sometimes we get them, and then we're there and we're miserable.
Yeah.
And we don't understand why. And so then we start to overeat or overdrink or over medicate or numb ourselves out in any myriad of ways. And we just become miserable when we don't get it. We don't understand why. And then when we finally find that light and break free or start to go after what it is that our heart desires, now we've got all of this guilt and shame about breaking away from the norm and not following what we were told we should be doing. And I just say that's all a bunch of bullshit, because we only get this one life. And who's to say what's right or wrong for me? I mean, yes, we should all be kind to each other. We should all wear seatbelts. Like there's some minor things that are major things, but there's like common things, common sense. But in terms of whether it's right for you to be a mother or not, I don't know that. If you have that strong burning desire and you can't imagine yourself not being a mother, then by all means go and do it. But for someone else who's like, no, that doesn't make you less of a woman. And it's okay to say, no, that's not for me. What I want is to travel the world, to run a company, to be a CEO, to save the oceans, like whatever it is that you want. We're all here with a purpose and we all have value, and our dreams matter. And to deny ourselves what our heart really desires, to deny ourselves of our dreams and what we long for, and the thing that when we drift off and daydream or we close our eyes and go to sleep at night, it comes back again and again and again. That is the universe, your spirit telling you what you were meant for. And to deny it, just in my opinion, brings sadness and unhappiness.
Yeah, I feel like, in my opinion, I've talked to a lot of people, but if you have this desire to do something and it scares you to do it, it's meant for you,
Absolutely.
And the reason why it scares you is because your mind is trying to keep you safe. You have your paradigms, whatever you have, like your childhood issues or whatever, your subconsciousness holding you back. But it's all part of the journey and the process, and achieving it is what's going to just make you getting there just so much more magnificent. But if it scares you just a little bit to go after that thing that you daydream about, just do it. It's not going to happen right away. You got to push through it, but just get started one step at a time, one research at a time, whatever it is. And everyone's dreams look different. So what you want to do is different. What I want to do versus anything. So no one's one dream is going to look the same. And I think also you have to be a little crazy,
Mm-hmm.
and you're talking about like society and you need to be this way, people get where they want to go because they have crazy ideas and they're a little crazy. You're not going to get there in the same think tank mind as the rest of society or how school tells you have to be. You kind of have to think outside the box and be a little bit crazy and enjoy the ride and the process. And if you fail at some point during the process, just take it as a learning step, pivot, figure out what you got to do, because it's not going to be smooth sailing. And I think people need to be reminded of that, especially in Western culture with every instant gratification thing that we have going on, instant deliveries, instant food, whatever it is, we don't know how to work hard anymore. The Google search, like instant find, like back in the day, like with my grandparents and even with my parents, they had to go to the library and research in a book.
Yeah. Yeah. Me too, honey. I'm that old.
Yeah.
So yes,
Like,
yeah.
I would be like, how do I even begin?
Oh man, it's showing my age.
Yeah. I'm like that generation where it's like, we still kind of had that, but then the internet was around and they were teaching us that and Google. And so we were doing that and like Spark Cliff Notes. So we can just get the Cliff Notes. You don't even have to read the book. So,
right.
It's just a different world. And I can't imagine even younger than me, me trying to relate to them. It's just so the generations are so different.
Yeah, 100%. My grandmother passed away a few years ago at 93, and I would go over and help her. She'd be like, my computer's not working. And she had an iPhone and a computer and all this. She was really quite savvy for her age. I mean, you got to remember, like every modern technology that we know was invented in her lifetime. The television, color TV, going to space, air travel, all of that, commercial air travel. And I would get so frustrated helping her, like, okay, you got to click the right button. And she'd be making notes in like a yellow legal pad with her beautiful cursive handwriting.
I was just about to say that they have beautiful handwriting.
Yeah, exactly. And I would just be getting so frustrated. And then I would remember like, okay, she is 93. She never in her lifetime could have envisioned what a computer is. God knows what's going to exist when I'm 93. I hope my grandkids are as patient with me as I am trying to be with her. So I just kind of kept reminding, like, don't throw the computer out the window, just breathe, and tell her for the 78th time that it's the right mouse button and you click it one time.
Yeah.
So I get it. But I agree with you, Christina, that we got to be brave. I mean, I would say we just got to be brave, right? Like every single one of us is unique. There has never been, nor will there ever be another Karey Spransy. And you have special gifts and talents that the world deserves and that the world needs, and that you are uniquely gifted with. And for you to deny those things that indeed scare you, that is a sign, like that's a sign to get curious. What is this? Why do I like this? Is this possible? Is there someone out there who's done something similar that could mentor me, that could coach me? To go out there and research and just get so curious, because man, this world and this life that we are living is so freaking magical. The good parts and the bad parts. If shitty things didn't happen, then we would never love and appreciate the wonderful, amazing things that happened. And without the wonderful, amazing things that happened in our lives, then the shitty things, like we wouldn't have any, they would lose their shine, right? So we need them both to experience what this world has to offer. And I don't know if this is the one and only life I get, and there's something beyond this, or this is the 500th time I'm getting a chance to do this. I don't know. What I do know is that I'm here now, and I want to squeeze every last bit of joy and life experience I absolutely possibly can from it. Because this is the only ride I get.
Yeah.
As far as I know right now.
Yeah, I feel you on that one. So Karey, I have 4 questions I ask all of my first-time guests, and I can't wait to hear what your answers are. But my first one is, who and what inspires you?
Drag queens inspire me. I'm a huge RuPaul's Drag Race fan. I absolutely love drag queens because I love, first and foremost, the creativity. You were talking about being brave and getting outside of the box. My God, the creativity that these drag queens have is absolutely amazing. The makeup skills are unbelievable. I mean, I screw up just clear Aquaphor on my lips, and they're like, the way they paint their faces is just amazing. But more importantly, the stories of perseverance and resilience and being your own rainbow and loving the body that you're in and letting your light shine is so inspiring. Every time I watch an episode, I am just like so much braver afterwards to just, shine my own light.
Yeah, no, that's a great answer. I love that. And my second question to you is, what is something you wished you knew when you were younger?
Oh man, I wish that I knew when I was younger. I think I wish I knew that life is ever changing and the Cinderella Disney fairy tales don't really exist, and to not wait for your Prince Charming and to just be your own princess and wear your own damn crown.
I like that one. That's a good answer. And my third question to you is, what's the essential part of your daily routine?
Moving my body, exercise in some way, absolutely every single day, even if it's just a walk. Like during cancer, it sometimes was a walk to the end of the block and back because that's all my body had in it. But to move and exercise my body every single day is absolutely essential. If I don't do it, I go bananas.
Yeah, I feel you. I'm the same way. And I've been kind of slacking on my physical moving, and I can just totally tell the difference in my mood. And I recognize it, and I just need to, I don't know why. Sometimes I self-sabotage myself, but I'm just working through my own paradigms.
Exactly. I mean, we teach what we're going through, right? So, I know you, after this podcast, go for a walk,
Totally. Yeah. Well, I have Nana here visiting. So I told Nana, I was like, I'm going to work out after my podcast interview. So
there we go. There we go. Just so you know, you're still on duty.
Yeah. And then my fourth question to you is, best advice you've ever received?
Oh, the best advice I've ever received, I think, came from my dad when I was a young mom. And he said, a little discipline early on goes a long way. And it turned out to be so true. Being my word and practicing consequences that I was willing to uphold, and, discipline with my son when he was 2 and 3, when the consequences were maybe I threw a toy away or something like that, were so huge, because when he was 15, 16, 17, and the consequences are as big as, pregnancy, drugs, all of that kind of stuff, it was easy peasy because he knew I was my word. He knew what to expect. And the teenage years were smooth sailing. So a little discipline early on goes a long way.
Yeah, no, I believe in that. That's a really good advice. All right, Karey, well, thank you so much for coming on Not Your Mama's podcast. It was such an honor. Do you have any last words before we say goodbye today?
Yeah, I would just like to remind anyone listening to this that you are worthy of your goals and dreams, and you always have been.
Well, that was a great end note. I love that, Karey. And if you guys want to reach out to her, all of her information is down below in the show notes. Don't be shy. Click and say hi. And I hope to see you all in another episode. Thanks for joining.
Thank you for listening to this week's episode of Not Your Mama's Podcast. If you're enjoying the show, please feel free to rate, subscribe, and leave a review wherever you listen to your podcasts. We really appreciate it, and we'll see you in the next one.